You've never read an Animorph book. All right, cool. That sounds good to me. The first book will definitely give you everything you need to know about the Animorph series before they morph. So like we're gonna get all the explanation you need, and then the book's gonna stop, and then we'll move on to the next book. Other than that, every story is literally the same. They morph into something, they sneak into somewhere and beat up the bad guys. That's about it. I got you, Rad Groovular. Yeah. Go shower. We only got 3 here, and I'm looking for probably Daniil left, or not left, but there's Daniil. Lovely. And Merm's offline, so she's not gonna be. She's gonna be asleep, so that's not gonna happen. So I think I like that it says 3 watching, but my count says that should be 4. They don't morph into a snail. They can control what they morph into. So like rhinos and let's see, cat and wait, you can't. Wait, hold on. Let me see what you can see. Into a cat. This is Tobias into his red-tailed hawk. Here's one into a dolphin, a gorilla, a fly on the wall. This one always did not do me very good for sleeping. Just look at that second image. Oh my god. Bears, but female. I wish that was Mothman, but it's very definitely a fly. Now the only thing is, I couldn't locate my copy of Animorph 1, but I found the PDF, and I will read from the PDF. It's somewhere in the house. My brother's got it, maybe. I found the stack of 5 through 19 where it should have been in the I've already read pile. And then I found 20 sitting 2 shelves higher. I found 2 sitting on a shelf adjacent to it. 3 was in a different spot altogether. And then 4 was even higher up on another shelf. Yeah, it was an adventure trying to find the lower numbers. And with that said, I haven't been able to find number 1. I'm pretty sure my brother borrowed it back, but I'm not 100%. I don't know. And we've got a new challenger. Mucko Puro? Welcome. Hello. Oh, do I? I mean, that doesn't really help me. Go to channel. Yeah, that doesn't help me. I don't recognize the username. Still doesn't help me. Goatman assigned Animorphs. I'm not giving you Animorph, seeing as like only Tobias is like the one that picked one, and that was his kind of thing. Everybody stop shaking your heads. Come on, please. Calm down. Stop it. Alrighty. I believe we're good to go if everybody else is good to go in chat to start reading Animorphs until they morph. Yes, no, yes. Also, I'm not wearing the white shirt, so I'm just blending into my background. Hey. Alrighty. Animorphs. The invasion is the... Danielle, please. I'm glad you could answer that. I don't know who Babar is. Do I? Maybe I do. Oh, the elephant. Yeah, that's probably a furry. Were you? Why? Hey, I knew what it was. It was not at the forefront of my memories, all right? All right, let's see. Okay. Animorphs. The first book is called The Invasion. And the tagline is, "Some people never change. Some do." Chapter 1. My name is Jake. That's my first name, obviously. I can't tell you my last name. It would be too dangerous. The controllers are everywhere. Everywhere. And if they knew my full name, they could find me and my friends, and then, well, let's just say I don't want them to find me. What they do to people who resist them is too horrible to think about. I won't even tell you where I live. You'll just have to trust me that it's a real place. A real town. It may even be your town. I'm writing this all down so that more people will learn the truth. Maybe then, somehow, the human race can survive until the Andalites is how I'm pronouncing this. I don't know how you all pronounce it, but it's... Yeah, Mark's a worm. Obviously, Mark's a worm. I don't know what else. I'm not too sure. Maybe we'll figure it out as we go. Again, it's Animorphs. It's not Fursona. Fursona for like we're trying to figure it out. Animorphs. Animorphs includes everything. I mean, a furry worm? Isn't that a caterpillar? Yeah. See? Maybe then, somehow, the human race can survive until the Andalites return and rescue us, as they promised they would. Maybe. My life used to be pretty normal. Normal, that is, until one Friday night at the mall. I was there with Marco, my best friend. We were playing video games and hanging out at this cool store that sells comic books and stuff. You know, the usual. Marco and I had run out of quarters for the games, right when we were ahead by a lot of points. Mostly, we're equally good at games. I have a Sega at home, so I get lots of practice time in, but Marco has this amazing ability to analyze games and figure out all the little tricks, so sometimes he beats me. Don't you just hate it when your friends just beat you? Oh no, I'm back. I want an Animorph. Oh, okay. Well, I mean, I don't know, Alex. I'm not sure. I don't know. Please, I hope you continue to say Polo every time I say Marco, because that's hilarious. That's good. Good content. Or maybe I just wasn't concentrating very well. I had kind of a bad day at school. I tried out for the basketball team and I didn't make the cut. It was like no big deal really, except that Tom, he's my bigger brother, he was this total legend at the junior high basketball team. Now he's the main scorer for the high school team. So everyone expected me to make the team easy. Only I didn't. Like I said, no big thing. But it was on my mind, just the same. Lately, Tom and I hadn't been hanging out as much. Not like we used to. So I figured, if I got his old position on the team... Well, anyway, we were out of money and getting ready to head home when we ran into Tobias. Tobias was, I guess he's still kind of a strange guy. He was new at school and he wasn't the toughest kid around, so he got picked on a lot. You can tell this is early 2000s or 1990 when they were hanging out at the mall, playing quarter games, and you just got picked on for not being strong. When were these books released? Most of the books also in the back had the order the next book by ripping out this page and mailing us. Come on. Oh, no, those are just blank pages at the back. 1996. Thank you. Yep. Sounds reasonable to me. Where was I? I actually met Tobias when he had his head in a toilet. There were these two big guys holding him down and laughing while they flushed, sending Tobias's straggly blonde hair swirling around the bowl. I told the two creeps to step off, and ever since then, Tobias figured I was his friend. "What's up?" Tobias asked. I shrugged. "Not much. We're heading home." "Out of quarters," Marco commented. "Certain people keep forgetting that the sleaze troll shows up right after you cross the nether fjord. Fjord? So certain people keep losing the game and losing our quarter." Marco kept jerking his thumb at me, just in case Tobias couldn't figure out what he meant by certain people. "So, maybe I'll walk home with you guys." Please tell me you're not. Yeah, I know it's fjord. Shut up. I thought there was another lower letter in there instead of just fjord. And I said, sure, why not? We were heading for the exit when I spotted Rachel and Cassie. Rachel is kind of pretty. Okay, she's very pretty. Although, since she is my cousin, I don't really think of her about her that way. She has blonde hair and blue eyes, and that kind of very clean, very wholesome look. She's one of those people who always knows the right clothes to wear and how to look like they just walked out of one of those fashion magazines girls like. She's also very graceful because she takes gymnastics, even though she says she's too tall to ever be really good at it. Cassie's sort of the opposite. For one thing, she's usually wearing jeans and a plaid shirt, or something else real casual. She's It didn't describe anybody. Alright, whatever. She's black and wears her hair very short most of the time. She had it longer for a while, but then she went back to short, which I like. Cassie is quieter than Rachel, more peaceful. Like she always understands everything on some different, more mystical level. I guess you could say I kind of like Cassie. Sometimes we sit together on the bus, even though I never know what to say to her. Mark, you're saying some very questionable things. Agreeable, but questionable things. No SMGs in chat. Yes, the book is saying questionable things. I know. It's 1996. It didn't describe any of the other white kids. But we just assume that they're white. Because they didn't tell us otherwise. And all the covers have white children on them. I think Marco's Hispanic. But that's about it. You guys going home? I asked Rachel. You shouldn't go through the construction site by yourselves. I mean, being girls and all. That was a mistake. I should never have suggested to Rachel that she's weak or helpless. Rachel may look like a little Miss Teen model or whatever, but she thinks she's Storm from the X-Men. I like that it knows. Are you gonna come and protect us, you big, strong man? She said. You think we're helpless just because... I'd appreciate if they did walk with us, Cassie interrupted. I know you're not afraid of anything, Rachel, but I guess I am. Rachel couldn't say much about that. That's the way Cassie is. She always had the right words to stop any argument without making anyone feel bad. So there we were, the five of us, Marco, Tobias, Rachel, Cassie, and me. 5 normal mall rats heading home. Sometimes I think about that one. The last moment when we were still just normal kids. It's like a million years ago. Like it was some totally different group of kids. You know what I was afraid of right then? I was afraid of admitting to Tom that I hadn't made the team. That was as scary as life got back then. 5 minutes later, life got a lot scarier. What were you shaking your head at me this time? Because I think there was a big time difference between the cousin's comment and the shaking my head. Oh, fair enough. Yeah. No, I knew I got that one. Mark, please. To get home from the mall, we could either go the long way around, which is the safe way, or we could cut through the abandoned construction site and hope there wasn't any axe murderers hanging around there. My mom and dad have sworn to ground me until I'm 20 if they ever find out I cut through the construction site. So anyway, we crossed the road and headed into the abandoned construction site. It was a big area surrounded by two sides by trees, with a highway separating it in the mall area, separating it from the mall area. Are you shaking your head just at every time I stumble? Then I might have to ban you from chat. 'Cause that cuts deep. There's a broad open field between the construction site and the nearest houses. It's a very isolated place. Originally, it was supposed to be this new shopping center. Now it was just all these half-finished buildings looking like a ghost town. There were huge piles of rusted steel beams, pyramids of giant concrete pipes, little mountains of dirt, deep pits that had filled up with black, muddy water, and creaking, rusted construction cranes that I had climbed once while Marco stayed below and told me I was being an idiot. It was a totally deserted place, full of shadows and sounds that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. When Marco and I went there during the day, we always found all these beer cans and liquor bottles. Sometimes we found the ashes of little campfires back in the hidden nooks and crannies of the buildings, so we knew that people came there at night. All that was on my mind as we crept through the site. It was Tobias who saw it first. He had been walking along, gazing up at the sky. I guess he was looking at the stars or something. That's why Tobias is sometimes off in his own world. Suddenly, Tobias stopped. He was pointing almost straight up. "Look," he said. "What?" I didn't want to be distracted because I was pretty sure I'd heard the sound of a chainsaw killer creeping up behind us. "Just look," Tobias said. His voice was strange, amazed sounding, but serious at the same time. So I looked up, and there it was, a brilliant blue-white light that scooted across the sky, going fast at first, too fast for it to be an airplane, then slower and slower. What is it? I mean, yeah, you're probably right, Danielle. Sounds about right. should ask my brother. He was... nah, he wouldn't have... nah, he wouldn't have gone outside. Tobias shook his head. I don't know. I looked at Tobias, and he looked back at me. We both knew what we thought it was, but we didn't want to say it. Marco and Rachel would have laughed, we figured. But Cassie just blurted it right out. It's a flying saucer. And that's the end of Chapter 1. Chapter 2. A flying saucer, Marco said. He'd laugh. That is, until he looked up. I could feel my own heart pounding in my chest. I felt weird and excited and afraid, all at once. It was coming this way, said Rachel. It's hard to be sure, I could barely whisper. My mouth was so dry. No, it's coming this way, Rachel said. She had a very definite way of talking, like she was totally sure of everything she says. Rachel was right. Whatever it was coming closer, and it was slowing down. Now I could see pretty clearly what it looked like. It's not exactly a flying saucer, I said. Slap two of them together. Now it's a flying saucer. There you go. First of all, it wasn't all that big. It was about as long as a school bus. The front end was a pod shaped almost like an egg. Extending from the back of the pod was a long, narrow shaft. There were two crooked, stubby, wing-like things, and on the end of each wing was a long tube that glowed bright blue at the back end. The little spaceship looked almost cute. You know, kind of harmless, except that it had it sort of had a tail. A mean-looking tail that curved up and forward, coming to a point as sharp as a needle. That tail thing, I said, it looks like a weapon. Definitely, Marco agreed. The little ship kept coming nearer, growing slower growing slower all the time. It's stopping, Rachel said. She had the same strange, not quite real tone in her voice that I had, like we couldn't believe what we were seeing. Like maybe we didn't want to believe. I think it sees us, Marco said. Should we run? Maybe we should run home and get a camera. Do you know how much money we could get for video of a real UFO? If we run, they might, I don't know, zap us with phasers on full power, I said. I meant it as a joke. Kinda. Phasers are only on Star Trek, Marco said, rolling his eyes the way he does when he thinks I'm being a dweeb. Like he was some kind of expert on alien spaceships. Right. The ship stopped and hovered almost directly over our heads, maybe 100 feet in the air. I could feel the air on my head standing on end. No, I could feel the hair on my head standing on end. When I glanced at Rachel, it was almost funny. She had long blonde hair and was sticking straight out in every direction. Only Cassie looked normal. What do you think it is? Marco asked. He sounded a little shakier. Not so laid back now. Now that the thing was so close. To be honest, I was a little scared too. A little scared, as in so terrified I couldn't move. But at the same time, it was all cool beyond any coolness ever. I mean, it was a spaceship right over our head. Tobias was actually grinning, but that's Tobias for you. He's never scared of weird stuff. It's the normal stuff he can't stand. I think it's going to land, he said, with a huge smile on his face. His eyes were bright and excited, and his blonde hair was standing up in clumps. The ship began to descend. "It's coming right at us," I cried. I had to fight an urge to run yammering across the field all the way home, where I could crawl into my bed and pull the covers up. Where I could crawl into my bed and pull the covers over my head. But I knew that this was an important, amazing thing. I knew I had to stay and see it all. I guess the others felt the same way, because we all just stood there. As the ship hummed and glowed and slowly settled down in an open space between piles of junk and tumbled walls, I noticed there were black burn marks along the top of the pod section. Some of the skin of the pod had melted. It touched the ground, and instantly the blue lights were off. Rachel's hair fell back down onto her neck. "It isn't very big, is it?" Rachel whispered. "It's about," I tried to think, "about 3 or 4 times as big as our minivan." "We should tell someone," Marco said. "I mean, this is kind of major, you know? Spaceships don't just land in the construction site every day. We should call the cops or the army or president or something. We'd be totally famous. We'd be on Letterman for sure." Yeah, you're right, I agreed. We should call someone. But none of us moved. None of us was just going to walk away from a spaceship. "I wonder if we should try talking to it," Rachel suggested. She was standing there with her hands on her hips, looking at the spaceship like it was a puzzle she had to figure out. "I mean, we should communicate, if that's even possible." Tobias nodded. He stepped forward and held out his hands. I guess he was showing whoever was in the ship that he wasn't carrying any kind of weapon or anything. "It's safe," he said in a low, clear voice. "We won't hurt you." "Do you think they speak English?" I wondered. "Well, everyone speaks English on Star Trek," Cassie said with a nervous laugh. Funny memes. Tobias tried again. "Please, come out. We won't hurt you." How should I convey the Andalites? I'm not giving it a southern accent. It's not gonna happen. Is there some voice modulator I can slap on here? No, Mark. Neither of those are good suggestions. Trailer man voice? Yeah, I guess. I was thinking that, but... Alright. "I know." I froze. Okay, I definitely heard someone say, "I know." Only there hadn't been any sound. I mean, I heard it, but I didn't really hear it. Maybe this was all a dream. I looked kind of sideways at Cassie. She looked back at me. Our eyes met. She had heard it too. I looked at Rachel. She was turning her head back and forth, like she was looking for where that sound, that wasn't a sound, could have come from. I started to get a sick, twisty feeling in my stomach. Did everyone hear that? Tobias whispered. We all nodded at once, very slowly. Can you come out? Tobias asked in a loud, talking to aliens voice. Can you come out? Oh no, I'm definitely not doing it in Skexy voice because that's just gonna ruin anything that I have left in here. Yes, do not be frightened. We won't be frightened, Tobias said. Speak for yourself, I muttered. The others giggled nervously. A thin arc of light appeared, a doorway opening slowly in the smooth side of the pod part of the ship. I stood there, totally hypnotized. I just stared, waiting. The opening grew, like a crescent moon at first, then a full, bright circle. And then he appeared. My first reaction was that someone had cloned a person and a deer together. The creature had a head and shoulders and arms that were more or less where they should be, though the skin was a pale shade of blue. I will give you, new readers, a image of what that looks like. There we go. That is what they are describing. It's a lot easier to understand what they're describing when you actually see what it is, especially when they get to the head part. Ooh, yeah. I mean, they've got good, smooth, buttery voices. Only aliens could do that. The skin was a pale shade of blue, but below that he had fur, a mix of blue and tan, covering a four-legged body that really did look like it belonged to a deer, or maybe a small horse. He ducked his head out of the doorway, and I could see that oh my god, I can't read. I could see that even the fairly normal-looking parts of him weren't all that normal. For a start, he had no mouth, just 3 vertical slits, and then there was his eyes. 2 of them were where they should have been, although they were a glittery green color that was kind of shocking. But the real shock was the other eyes. He had what seemed like horns, only on the top of each horn was an eye. The horns could move, twisting to point the eyes front or back and up and down. Daniil, what did you say that got something retracted, did you delete your own? Is that what that? Retracted, that makes sense, okay. Dun dun dun. Yeah, I realized that. Yes, he assumed his gender. It'd be like that sometimes. What did you say that you pulled it? What did you... Ah. I remember reading it. I thought the eyes were bad until I saw the tail. It was like a scorpion's tail, thick and powerful looking. On the end was a wickedly curved, very sharp-looking horn or stinger. It reminded me of the alien spaceship. It had seemed kind of cute and harmless till you noticed the tail. The alien seemed kind of harmless at first glance too. Then you see that tail of his and you thought, whoa, this guy could do some damage if he wanted. Hello, Tobias said. His voice was gentle, like he was talking to a baby. Oh, okay. Hello. He was grinning. I realized I was smiling too. At the same moment, I realized that there were tears in my eyes. I can't really describe how it felt, except that it seemed like there was an alien, like the alien was someone I'd known forever, like an old friend I hadn't seen in a long, long time. Hello, the alien said in that silent way that you only heard inside your head. How sharp? Yeah. Sharp. Very sharp. Hi, we all said back. To my surprise, the alien staggered. He fell out of the ship to the ground. Tobias tried to grab him and hold him up, but the alien slipped from his grasp and fell back into the dirt. Look, Cassie cried. She pointed at a burn that covered half the alien's right side. He's hurt. Yes, I'm dying, he said. Can we help you? Can we call an ambulance or something? Marco said. We can bandage that wound, Cassie said. Jake, give me your shirt. We can tear it up and make bandages. Cassie's parents were both veterinarians, and she's totally into animals. Not that this was an animal. Not exactly, anyways. No, I will die. This wound is fatal. No, I cried. You can't die. You're the first alien ever to come to Earth. You can't die. I don't know why I was so upset. I just knew that way deep down inside, it hurt me to think of him dying. I am not the first. There are many, many others. Other aliens? Like you? Tobias demanded. The alien shook his head slowly, side to side. Not like me. Yeah, Doorknob's gonna die. Then he cried out in pain, a silent sound that echoed horribly inside my mind. For a moment, I had actually felt him dying. Not like me. They are different. Different how? I said. I will remember this answer forever. He said, they have come to destroy you. Big yikes. They have come to destroy you. It was strange, the way we all just knew he was telling the truth. No one said, no way, you're making that up. We just knew. He was dying and he was trying to warn us of something terrible. They're called Yerks. Yerks. Yeet. Yerks. Yeet. Yerks. Yerks. I'm just going to go with Yerks. Yerks are different. They have no body like yours or mine. They live in the bodies of other species. They are... I guess he couldn't think of a word to explain Yerks, so he closed his eyes and seemed to concentrate. Suddenly, a bright picture popped into my head. I saw a green-gray alien... I need some water. I'll be back. Yeah, that sounds about right. Excuse me. I saw a green-gray slimy thing like a snail without its shell, only bigger, the size of a rat maybe. It wasn't a pretty picture. I'm guessing that was a yerk, Marco said. Either that or a very big wad of slimy chewy gum. They are the most powerless without hosts. Suddenly we felt a blast of pain straight from the alien. I could also feel his sadness. He knew his time was almost up. The yerks are parasites. They must have a host to live in. In this form they are known as controllers. They enter the brain and are absorbed into it, taking over the host's thought and feelings. They try to get the host to accept them voluntarily. It is easier that way. Otherwise, the host may be able to resist at least a little. Yeah, the snails are not lovely. Don't take their side. They're legitimately jerks. They're just trash beings. Are you saying that they take over human beings? Rachel asked. People? These things take over their bodies? Look, this is serious stuff, I said. You shouldn't be telling us. We're just kids, you know? This is like something the government should know about. We had hoped to stop them. Swarms of their bug fighters were waiting when our dome ship came out of Zed's space. We knew of their mothership, and we were ready for the bug fighters, but the yerks surprised us. They had hidden a powerful blade ship in a crater of your moon. We fought, but we lost. They have tracked me here. They will be here to eliminate all traces of me and my ship. How can they do that? Cassie wondered. Five kids go abandoned construction site, find alien ship. Alien comes out very badly damaged. Looks like this. Half deer, half man, no mouth. Talks through telepathy. Also emotes through telepathy. And yerks are evil, gross slime things that need host bodies to survive. Who are the five kids? Alien is sexy, yes. All of the Andalites are sexy. No debate about that. We have Marco, Tobias. What's his face that actually started off the book? Jake. Cassie and Rachel. We have gotten no descriptors of the other guy, like everybody. Rachel's tall and does gymnastics, is blonde with blue eyes. She knows what she's talking about. Cassie is the only one that they describe skin color. She's black. There you go. There's half of the description we got. Main character tries not to think about being in love with his cousin, Rachel. Glad to hear the Andalites actually economics. Rachel and Jake are cousins. Jake goes, "Wow, she's pretty, but also she's my cousin, so I try not to think of her in that way." Tobias is weird. He's the weird kid that gets picked on. Tobias is no. Jake is Tobias's friend because Jake stood up for Tobias, but it's not really mutual. But it's also like, whatever, kind of thing. Marco's a serious boy. That's pretty much it. So the Andalite is dying. And we get a lot of information that doesn't make sense until later. My cousin is pretty. Well, not that pretty. No, who am I kidding? She's super hot. Yes, Marco. 3 guys, 2 girls. And so I went, like, I'm not giving voices to everybody else just because there's a lot of switching and I don't feel like trying to keep up with switching that much. But I am narrator voice the Andalite because there needs to be a distinct difference between the two, seeing as one's talking and one's communicating. And anytime the Andalite communicates, it's that. So zero tentacles yet. I think they turn into one of them turns into an octopus at one point. All right. The alien seemed to smile with his eyes. The Andalite has 4 eyes. 2 on extremities like a snail kind of thing, and then 2 in his face. Tentacle, not in the first 20 books, as far as I know. Maybe the one with the dolphin, which is like a 4th book, but I really, it's been a long time since I've read them. Anon, please. I also forgot to. There's all the books. There's some of the books. There's like half of the books. A little less than half the books. Alright. The alien seemed to smile with his eyes. Their Dracon beams will leave nothing behind but a few molecules of this ship and this body. I sent a message to my home world. We Andalites fight the Yeerks wherever they go throughout the universe. My people will send help, but it may take a year, even more, and by then the Yeerks will have control of this planet. After that, there is no hope. You must tell people, you must warn your people. Does that look like a DVD case to you? Why are your DVD cases beige? What the heck? should say please. How many books are there? There's at least 51. There's 3 or so spin-off stories. There's one whole story arc that follows Andalites, not the children. A movie and a TV show. So 54 plus 10 companion books according to Wikipedia. 54? That means we're missing a couple. Yeah, some of these books actually have like watch on Nat Geo. That's later in the series when it actually gets picked up. Alright, it's not any of the first 20. Okay, back to the book. Another spasm of pain ripped through him. We all knew he was nearly gone. No one is ever going to believe us, Marco said hopelessly. He looked at me and shook his head. No way. He was right. If these Yeerks were to wipe out the Andalite ship, how on earth were we to convince people? They'd think we were either nuts or on drugs. It was 1996. Probably both. Not enough content, because after the first book, we're just going to be sliding right through them. Like, they're just gone. We do not need an HBO version of Animorphs. And then we also don't need a CW, like, Netflix version either. I think animated might be the best choice. So, like, Voltron or She-Ra. Also, She-Ra today. Alright. I think this would do a lot better as an animated one. I think it's a live-action TV show, but I'm not even sure. Animorphs TV series. Oh, good. You can find some of them on Daily Motion. Starring a bunch of people. Season 2. There were 2 seasons. Wow, they have a bunch of 2-parters. Nice. Production, Toronto, Ontario. Makes sense. Oh my god, I love that. Scholastic actually, like, helped produce this. Interesting. 1998 to 1999. Oh yeah, this is definitely very much Canadian. It's Scholastic and New York, Toronto, London, Auckland, Sydney is the Scholastic Inc. And oh no, I lie. Oh no, wait. Oh, that's for regarding of permissions is New York, but I'm pretty sure it's Canadian, like through and through. K.A. Applegate is The author is American? Ah, dang. I guess us Canadians were just like, give us this Animorph. Yeah. And then they made Animorphs for Canada. It was on Nickelodeon, so more people saw it, but I guess they just filmed it. Country of origin. Canada, United States. Love that country. Anyways, I gotta see if I can find... Ooh, VHS release. Yes. Guy named Boris played Marco. It's funny. Also, this is just a spin-off from Harry Potter. Maybe they mean the town of Canada, Texas? Yeah, that sounds about right. Ooh, Animorphs, also known under the promotional title of Annie TV. Bad idea. It was made for YTV Season 1 and Global Season 2. That makes... Yep. May 2013, reruns began airing on Kubo until September 27th, 2015. Dang, I missed it the second time around. I'm starting a TV channel. It's going to be called Why Though TV. Yikes. All right. He was right. If the Yeerks were to wipe out the Andalite ship, how on earth would we ever convince people? They'd think we were either on drugs or nuts. I don't care if he thinks he's gonna die. We have to try and help him, Rachel said. We can get him to a hospital, or maybe Cassie's parents. There is no time. No time, said the Andalite. Then his eyes brightened. Perhaps. What? Go into my ship. You will see a small blue box, very plain. Bring it to me quickly. I have very little time, and the Yeerks will find me soon. We all looked at each other. Who was going to be the one to go inside the ship? Somehow, we all seemed to agree it would be me. Actually, I didn't agree, but everyone else did. Go ahead, Tobias said. I want to stay with him. He knelt beside the Andalite and placed a comforting hand on the alien's narrow shoulder. I looked at the doorway into the spacecraft. I glanced at Cassie. Go ahead, she said, sending me a smile. You're not scared. She was wrong. I was plenty scared. But the way she smiled at me, I wasn't about to weasel out. It's because he's in love with Cassie. Ha ha. Why not books? Get reading, kids. It's 1996 and libraries are cool. Pump up that literacy rate. I'd like to state that I'm interested as a business. There you go, Mark. Gonna make the big bucks. Just play reruns of Animorphs and 16 and Total Drama Island. Ned's Declassified School Survival Guide. Life with Derek. That's a Raven. Phil from the Future. Babar. Blue's Clues. Ooh, The Ironic Gentleman, yes. Now, is this after the Seafaring Adventures, or, like, where it's now a school and they visit stuff. The Ironic Gentleman, only it's like the Magic School Bus, but it's a pirate ship. That sounds good. Good, I like that. And you can have what's her face that made cool things. She could instead of going back on the HMS Valiant, she should go on the Ironic Gentleman and be like the tech teacher. She'll be Mr. Jones. Sounds about right. Sounds good. I walked over to the door of the ship and looked inside. It was surprisingly simple. It looked cozy almost. Everything was a creamy color with rounded edges and shapes that tended to be oval. That was one of the things that helped me spot the blue box so easily. It was sky blue and square, and maybe 4 inches on each side. It seemed kind of heavy for being so small. I stepped up into the ship. How do you know it seemed heavy if you weren't even near it? $5 for a 15% stake? That's a hard bargain to beat. Damn. I stepped up onto the ship. There was no chair, just sort of an open space where I guess the Andalite stood on his 4 hooves while he worked the few controls. There weren't a lot of buttons or anything. I wondered if the Andalite controlled the ship with his thoughts. I quickly reached for the box and started to head back outside, but then something caught my eye. It was a small, 3-dimensional picture. 4 Andalites standing all together, looking like a strange gathering of deer with solemn faces. 2 of them looked like very small kids. I realized that this was a picture of the Andalite's family. It filled me with sadness to think that here he was, dying a million miles from his family, dying because he tried to protect the people of Earth. I felt a small flame of anger against the Yerks, or controllers, or whatever they were, for causing this. I went back to the circle of my friends. "Here's the box," I told the Andalite. "Thank you." Was that your family, that picture?" "Yes." "I'm really sorry." What else could I have said? "There is something I may be able to do to help you fight the Yerks." "What?" Rachel demanded. "I know that you are young. I know that you have no power with which to resist the controllers, but I may be able to give you some small powers that may help." We all looked at each other, except Tobias, who never took his gaze off the alien. The alien. It's a 3-dimensional picture. It's probably just a hologram with a base, like... Yeah. "If you wish, I can give you powers that no other human being has ever had." "Powers? What is that supposed to mean?" "It's a piece of the Andalite technology that the Yerks do not have. A technology that enables us to pass unnoticed in many parts of the universe. The power to morph. We have never shared this power, but your need is great." Morph? Morph how?" Rachel asked, her eyes narrowed. "To change your bodies. To become any other species, any animal." Marco laughed diversively? Derisively. Marco laughed. become animals. Marco isn't the most accepting person in the world. You will only need to touch the creature to acquire its DNA pattern, and you will be able to become that creature. It requires concentration and determination, but if you are strong, you can do it. There are limitations, problems, dangers even, but there is no time to explain it all. No time. You will have to learn for yourself. But first, do you wish to receive this power? He's kidding, right? Marco asked. No, Tobias said softly. He's not kidding. This is nuts. The whole thing is nuts. Yerks and the spaceships and slugs taking over people's brains and andalites and the power to change into animals. Give me a break, Marco said. Yeah, it's beyond weird, I agreed. We're off the map of weirdness by this point, Rachel said. But unless we're all just dreaming, I think we'd better deal with this. He's dying, Tobias reminded us. I'll do it, Cassie said. That surprised me. Cassie isn't usually so quick to decide. But I guess, like Tobias, she felt the truth of what the Andalite was saying. Yeah, he's a good Andalite. I think we should all decide together, I suggested, one way or the other. What's that? Rachel asked. She was looking up towards the sky. Far, far overhead, 2 pinpoints of bright red light were shooting across the sky. Yerks, the Andalite said with the word in our minds, and we could feel his hatred. Yerks. The twin, Chapter 4. The twin red lights slowed. They turned in a circle and came towards us. There is no time. You must decide. We have to do this, Tobias said. How else are we going to fight these controllers? This is so insane. Insane, Marco said. I'd like more time, but we don't have that choice, Rachel said. I'm for it. What do you say, Jake? Cassie asked me. It was odd. Like suddenly, I was the one who had to decide for everyone. Well, that's because you're the one writing the book. You're obviously the leader. I looked up at the Yerk ship. What had the Andalite called them? Bug fighters? They were circling closer, like dogs sniffing for a scent. I looked down at the Andalite and remembered the picture of his family. Would they even know what happened to him? I looked at each of the people around me. My usually funny, occasionally annoying best friend Marco. Rachel, my smart, pretty, confident cousin. And Cassie, who everyone knew liked animals more than she liked most people. There you go. There's the stereotypes right there, laid out for you. Nice and good. Finally, I looked at Tobias. It was weird. The feeling I had at that moment, staring at him. A chill or something. We have to, Tobias said to me. Slowly, I nodded. Yes, we have no choice. Then, each of you, press your hand against one of the sides of the square. Good thing there's only 5 of them. We did. 5 hands each pressed against one side, and then a 6th hand, different from ours, with too many fingers. Do not be afraid, the Andalite said. Something like a shock, only pleasurable, ran through me. A tingle that almost made me laugh. Go now, the Andalite said. Only remember this. Never remain in animal form for more than 2 of your Earth hours. Never. This is the greatest danger of morphing. If you stay longer than the 2 hours, you will be trapped, unable to return to human form. 2 hours, I repeated. Suddenly, some new fear washed through the Andalite's mind. Linked as I was to him, I could feel it as a dread that crawled up through my spine. He was staring up into the sky with his main eyes. Something else was up there with the bug fighters. Visser 3, he comes. What? I was shaking with new terror. What's a Visser? Who's a Visser? Go, now, run. Visser 3 is here. He is the most deadly of your enemies. All of the Yerks alone has the power. Of all the Yerks, he alone has the power to morph. The same power you now have. Run! No, we'll stay with you. Maybe we can help, Rachel said firmly. Again, it was as if the alien was smiling at us with his eyes. No, you must save yourselves. Save yourselves and save your planet. The Yerks are here. That's the name. I think I will give up at 2. I thought we would get through more books, but I forgot how much was in the beginning of this book. We all looked up, craning our necks. Sure enough, the 2 red lights were sinking towards us, and they had been joined by a third ship, far larger, black as a shadow within a shadow. But how are we supposed to fight these controllers? Rachel demanded. You must find a way. Now run. I mean, Visser 3 though is, I believe, like highest in the patriarchy of evil people, or maybe there's somebody above. I think there is somebody above. I can't remember though. But he's nowhere close to an android. That's for sure. If I remember correctly, took an andalite. Yeah, kinda. I jerked away. Yikes. I jerked from the force of his command. He's right! Run! I yelled. We ran, all but Tobias, who knelt beside the Andalite, took his hand. The Andalite pressed his other hand against Tobias's head. Tobias rocked back like he'd been shocked. Then he, too, was up and running, stumbling over over the loose junk and potholes of the construction site. A beam of bright red light snapped on. It was a spotlight from one of the bug fighters. The beam lit up the fallen Andalite ship, and fallen Andalite and his ship. A spotlight from the second red bug fighter joined the first, and the Andalite shone brilliant as a star. I hit the dirt hard. I saw my leg lit up with the circle of that spotlight. I yanked it to me and crawled fast, scraping my elbows and my knees over sharp stones. Mark, what has gotten into you? Calm down. The 5 of us crouched behind a low, crumbled wall, afraid to move, afraid to look, but just as afraid to look away. Slowly the bug fighters descended. It was easy to see where they had gotten their nickname. They were slightly larger than the Andalite fighter, and shaped like legless cockroaches. There were small windows, like eyes, on the forward thrust head of the bug, and on either side of the head were 2 very long, very sharp, separated spears. The Yerk bug fighters touched down, one on either side of the Andalite ship. "Okay, now you can wake me up," Marco said in a rattled whisper. "I've had enough of this dream." The larger ship began to descend. I don't know what it was about that ship, but as it got closer, I started to feel I couldn't breathe. I tried to suck in a deep lungful of air and couldn't. I tried to swallow and I couldn't. I wanted to run, but my legs were jelly. I was shaking from a fear so deep it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. It was the same fear that the Andalite had shown when he realized Visitor 3 was coming. The ship settled towards the ground. It looked like it was going to land directly on a big rusted earth mover parked there. But as the visitor's ship descended, the earth mover just sizzled and disappeared. Visitor 3's ship was built like some ancient weapon. It reminded me of one of those battle axes the old-timey knights used to use when they were hacking off the heads of their foes. There was a main part, like the handle of the axe, with a big triangular point at the front. That part had to be the bridge. At the rear were 2 huge scimitar wings. It was 8 or 10 times the size of the bug fighters. The blade ship landed. A door opened. I mean, they are kind of... Some of them are called earth movers. Cassie started to scream. I clamped my hand over her mouth. The leader from the ship, whirling and thrusting and slicing the air. Oh my god, no. They leaped. They leaped from the ship, whirling and thrusting and slicing the air. Creatures that looked like walking weapons. They stood on 2 bent back legs and had 2 very long arms. On each arm there were curved horn blades growing out of its wrists and elbow. There were other blades at their bent back knees, and 2 more blades at the ends of their tails. They had feet like Tyrannosaurus Rex. But it was the head that got your attention. A neck like a snake, a mouth that was almost a falcon's beak, and from the forehead, 3 dagger-like horns raked forward. Hork-Bajir controllers. Hork-Bajir controllers. There we go. Yeah, big scissor chickens. I jumped, hearing the Andalite's words in my mind. They were fainter than before, strained like someone was yelling from far away. "Did you guys..." I asked. Rachel nodded. "Yeah. The Hork-Bajir are good people, despite their fearsome looks. But they have been enslaved by the Yerks. Each of them now carries a Yerk in their head. They are to be pitied." "Pity, right," Rachel said grimly. "They're walking killing machines. Look at them." But our attention was drawn away by a new form that crept and slithered and shimmied. Love when things just shimmy out. Shimmied out of the blade ship. Taxxon controllers. Taxxon. Taxxon. The Andalite said. I know he was trying to tell us all he could, even to the end. trying to prepare us for what we were up against. The Taxons are evil. Yeah, Marco muttered. I would have guessed that. They were like massive centipedes, twice as long as a grown man, so big around that if you tried to hug one, your arms wouldn't make it even halfway. Not that anyone would want to. They had dozens of legs that supported the lower two-thirds of their bodies. The top third was held upright, and there were rows of legs become smaller, with lobster claw hands. Around the top of their disgusting, tubular bodies were 4 eyes, each like a wiggling globule of red jello. And at the very end, pointing straight up in the air, was a round mouth, ringed by hundreds of teeth. Hork-Bajir and Taxons poured from the blade ship, spreading out around the area like well-trained marines. They were holding small pistol-sized things that were definitely weapons. They formed a ring around the Andalite ship. Suddenly, one of the Hork-Bajirs came straight towards us. He took one big bounding step, and he was practically on top of us. I hugged the dirt like it was my last hope. I wish I could dig a hole. I saw a flash of Marco's face. His eyes were huge. His lips were drawn back in what could have been a grin, except that I knew it was an expression of pure terror. I think I would have to disagree with the Taxons and the Hork-Bajir maybe, but the Taxons, no, they're ugly boys. Chapter 5. The Hork-Bajir pointed. I'm just gonna call them HB from now on because, yeah, no thanks. The Hork-Bajir, nope, the HB, there we go. The HB pointed his gun, or whatever it was, around at the darkness. His snake head swiveled left or right, trying to penetrate the gloom. Silence, the Andalite warned us. HB do not see well in darkness, but their hearing is very good. The HB moved closer still. He was 6 feet away now, and just the low wall between us. He had to have heard my heart pounding. Maybe he didn't know what the sound was. Maybe he didn't recognize the sound of 5 terrified kids whose knees were quivering and teeth were chattering. Kids who were breathing in short, sudden gasps. I was sure I was going to die right then. I could see in my mind the way those vicious wrist and elbow blades were going to slice my head from my body. What a lovely thought to think about. If you've never been really afraid, let me tell you, it does things to you. It takes over your mind and your body. You want to scream, you want to run, you want to wet your pants. You want to throw yourself down on the ground and cry and beg, please, 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 don't kill me. And if you think you're brave, well, wait till you're cowering a few feet away from a monster who could turn you into coleslaw in about 3 seconds flat. Ain't that the tea? And if, no. But then the Andalite's voice was in my head again. Courage, my friends. And this warm, I don't have any words to explain it. It was just this warmth that spread all through me. It was like when you're a little kid and you've had a terrible nightmare and you've woken up screaming. You know how you used to feel better when your mom or dad would turn on the light and come in and sit beside you in bed? That's what it was like. I mean, I was still terrified. The HB was still there, so real and so deadly. I could hear him breathing. I could smell him. But But at the same time, I could feel the panic coming under his control. I could feel the panic coming under control. I could feel the strength flowing from the doomed Andalite. He was letting us borrow some of his courage, even though he must have been afraid himself. I don't know, I just finished the exam, so I think I know this feeling. Well, you know what? When you're from 1996, it seems about right. The HB moved away. Something new was coming from the blade ship. Shaking and chattering, I rose high enough to look over the low wall. Every HB and every Taxon was turned towards the ship now. They're all standing at attention, I whispered. How can you tell? Marco whispered back. Who knows what a jelly-eyed centipede or a walking salad shooter from hell is standing at attention? Then he appeared. Visser 3, the Andalite said. Visser 3 was an Andalite. Or at least he was an Andalite controller. What the... Rachel said. Isn't that an Andalite? Only once has a Yeerk been able to take an Andalite body. There is only one Andalite controller. That one is Visser 3. Visser 3 walked confidently towards the wounded Andalite. The Visser seemed so much like the Andalite that it was hard to tell them apart at first. He had the same mouthless face, the same extra stalk eyes that turned here and there, checking out everything in all directions, the same powerful yet sleek four-legged body, and the same wicked tail. But it was the Visser. But if the Visser looked like any normal Andalite, he felt different. It was like he was wearing a mask, only you just knew that under the fake sweetness of the mask, there was something twisted and foul. Well, Visser 3 said. I almost had a heart attack when I realized I was hearing the Visser's thoughts. Can he hear our thoughts? Cassie whispered. If he can, we're so dead and I don't even want to think about it, Rachel told her. He cannot hear your thoughts. As long as you don't direct them to him, you can hear his thoughts because he is broadcasting them for all to hear. This is a great victory for him, so he wants all to hear. This is the other Andalite. What have we here? A meddling Andalite. Visser 3 looked more closely at the Andalite ship. But no ordinary Andalite warrior. Prince Elfangor Sirienal Shamtool. If I'm not mistaken, an honor to meet you. You're a legend. How many of our fighters have you shredded? 7? Or was it 8 by the time the battle ended? Okay, so the only thing that I have against the Yeerks is that they seem to have a government who regulates what body their citizens have. Oh wow, I can't. Alright, so Yeerks, and then Elfangor Sirienal Shamtool. There we go. Yeah, you got the right idea, Daniil. It's exactly how it has to go down. Oh, and there should be a prince at the beginning of that last message that I sent. The Andalite didn't answer, but I had the feeling maybe it was more than 8. The very last Andalite in this sector of space. Yes, I'm afraid your dome ship has been completely destroyed. Completely. I watched it burn as it fell into the atmosphere of this little world. There will be others, the Andalite prince said. Man, that tool was a sham, or was he a tool? Ooh, no, I don't think he was a tool. He's a nice fella. The Visser took a step closer to the Andalite. Yes, and when they come it will be too late. This world will be mine, my own contribution to the Yerk Empire. Oh, yep, no, there is a higher bit than him. Our greatest there's 2 more above him. I forgot about that. Our greatest conquest. Then I'll be Visser 1. What do you want with these humans? The Andalite asked. You have your Taxon allies. You have your HB slaves. And other slaves from other worlds. Why these people? Because there are so many. And they are so weak. Visser 3 sneered. Billions of bodies. And they have no idea what's happening. With this many hosts, we can spread throughout the universe. Unstoppable. Billions of us. We'll have to build 1,000 new Yerk pools just to raise Yerks for half this number of bodies. Face it, Andalite, you have fought well and bravely, but you have lost. Oh, it's 203. Alright, there's 2 more pages left. I'll finish it at chapter 6. Visser 3 stepped right up to the Andalite. I could feel the Andalite's fear, but rather than cower, he fought the pain of his wound and climbed to his feet. He knew he was going to die. He wanted to die on his feet, looking his enemy in the face. But Visser 3 was not done taunting his foe. I promise you one thing, Prince Elfangor. When we have this planet, with its rich harvest of bodies, we will move against the Andalite homeworld. I will personally hunt your family down. I will personally oversee the placement of most faithful lieutenants in their heads. I hope that they resist, so I can hear their minds scream. The Andalite struck. His tail whipped up and over so fast you couldn't really see it. The Visser twisted his head aside, and the Andalite's tail blade missed the Visser's head by a bare half-inch, but it sliced into his shoulder. Blood, or something like blood, sprayed from his wound. Yes, I hissed. Arg! I could hear the Visser's howl of pain in my head. At the same time, a blinding beam of blue light shot from the tail of the Andalite ship. It sliced into the nearest bug fighter. HB and Taxons scattered. Even crouching behind the wall, I could feel a wave of blistering heat. The bug fighter sizzled and disappeared. Fire! Yelled Visser 3. Burn his ship. The night exploded in a blinding light. Red beams lanced? I guess lance makes sense. Red beams lanced from the blade ship and the remaining bug fighter. The Andalite ship glowed, and with a strange slowness, disintegrated. Then, in a flash and glow of Dracon beams, I saw, or thought I saw, humans. A small group of them, maybe 3 or 4, back in the shadows behind the Visser. There are people over there, I told Marco. What, are they prisoners? Take the Andalite, Visser 3 ordered his soldiers. Hold him for me. 3 big HB grabbed the Andalite and held him down. Their wrist blades were at his throat, but they knew better than to kill him. That was to be Visser 3's personal privilege. Then we saw why a Yeerk as powerful as Visser 3 would inhabit the only captured Andalite body. As we watched, the Visser began to morph. His Andalite head grew larger, much larger. The 4 horse-like legs merged in two, and then expanded, each leg becoming as big as round as a redwood tree. The delicate Andalite arms sprouted and became tentacles. There they are. There you go. Tentacles. Yeah, I know it took a while. I apologize. This isn't real. This isn't real, Cassie whispered. In the hideously bloated head, a mouth appeared. It was filled with teeth as long as your arm. Whose arm? Your arm? My arm? Alex's arm? Mark's arm? My brother's arm? Whose arm? The mouth grew wider and wider, becoming monstrous, terrifying grin. There was nothing left of the Andalite body. A monster had taken its place. Raug. The roar of the beast Visser 3 had become made the ground shake. I covered my ears with my hands. Raug. Yeah, I hate that. I hate that a lot. My teeth rattled around from the sound. I heard someone whimpering. It was me. That's a mood. Visser 3 had become a monster that made the the HB and the Taxons look like harmless toys. He reached out with one thick tentacle and grabbed the Andalite by the neck. No. I heard Cassie whispering over and over again. No. Don't look, Rachel said to her. She put her arm around Cassie's shoulder and held her close. Then she reached for Tobias and took his hand. I guess you never really know someone till you see them scared. And even scared to death, with tears running down her face, Rachel had strength to spare. Visser 3 lifted the Andalite straight up in the air, tearing him from the grasp of the HB. The Andalite prince struck again and again with his tail, but each strike was like a pinprick against such a creature. Visser 3 held the Andalite high in the air, and then Visser 3 opened his mouth wide. And that is chapter 5, and I am ending it at chapter 6 so I can get some sleep. So that's definitely taking longer than I expected. But I mean, hopefully the rest of the books kind of end off a little shorter. I think I read that right. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we only get 3 pages in to the second book, and I have to stop. So that's fun. Um, yeah, quite a bit of this book will not be skipped because nobody knows what's happening, and we got to set it up for that. But I think it's probably about half that we skip. I'm not sure. But alrighty. I will probably stream not I have work on Saturday and Sunday morning, so probably Sunday evening for some sort of game stream, maybe The Witness, because I want to continue playing The Witness. Sunday evening for that, and then most likely back on Tuesdays and Thursdays for Animorphs. Or should we just call them Annies? No morphing. So. Alrighty. Have a good night. My lovely goatees. Keep being foolish.